him, I think. Possibly. Yeah. The video plays.
There's a basketball player that some of you may know about who's like a very tall, like brilliant, amazing talent called Kevin Durant. And many years ago, he won the MVP for basketball. And he brought his mother along. And she knew he'd mentioned her, but she didn't know. And he told her whole story. She was 21 years old when she had 2 kids, a single parent, and they lived in an apartment with no furniture. But she still made them feel loved. And when she was hungry, she still found food for them. And Durant said to his mom, "You made us believe. You kept us off the street, put clothes on our backs, food on the table. When you didn't eat, you made sure we ate. You went to sleep hungry, but you sacrificed for us." And then she said, and later on, everybody in the basketball world started calling her Mama, you know. And she said, when someone calls you Mama, that means something. There's a lot of respect and honor attached to it that I hold dear, and it doesn't matter the age. I have grandmothers and grandfathers calling me Mama. It's a level of accountability and responsibility I have to people. I'm very mindful of my responsibility of being called Mama. That means something to me. So it's kind of lovely.
Isn't that great? I mean, it's a great story. It's a great retelling of the story. I thought, and this is what I thought for women, you know, that there's an accountability and a responsibility for being called woman. And that level, I just thought she embodied that so beautifully. So I thought we'd do a few more questions today. And if anybody has any questions, I'm sorry I go so slowly in answering them. I do my best, but you know, I don't know. There we go. We'll just go until we're done. That's what we'll do. And for the time being, there are some more questions. So Ben asked, what is the best virtue in connecting men more to a sense of place and creative resourcefulness in that place? As a student of architecture, I wanted to ask. No. You know, I was writing this morning, and I was writing about Italy, and I was writing about the fact that really until I went to Italy, this idea of ancestors or place had very little meaning for me. And you know, I have these two tracks of voices that run through me. They're like the voices that break in through the din of noise. You know, if you had, you know, like a certain a kind of alarm clock voice, but, you know, that was very small and still inside. And so one will just say, wherever I am, somewhere, it'll just be wherever I am. I want to go home. And it'll be this voice that wants to go home to a home I've never been to, a homesickness for a place I've never been. And then there's another voice, though, that is the response to that, apparently, that I've felt it, you know, many times in the whole of my life, but I probably felt it more times in Italy than I had felt in the whole of my life. And that's this voice that just says, this is how I want to live. And this is how I want to live. And I would just be writing, and there would be these beautiful terracotta floors, and they have a super white limestone there. So it'd be like this red terracotta, red orange terracotta that's super white, and then like these dark beams, and then you'd hear the bells ringing, you know, and just this voice would just say, this is how I want to live. And I make it my practice to listen. You know, I think we're so obsessed with the idea of gaslighting because we're gaslighting ourselves. Nobody has to gaslight you. You just have to have your inner voice speak to you and see how often you dismiss it or say what it's feeling isn't so, or deny it, or try to steer it in another direction. And so I do my best to be a good man to the woman inside, the woman being desire, and to follow it to the absolute best of my ability without diminishing or dismissing it, or it's not necessarily thrilled with where I'm at right now. So it definitely wants to go to Italy, and so, but to really feel that and listen to it, and be with that feeling. Sometimes it's hard to be with what's there when you don't see a way that it could be different. And so then there's a certain kind of compassion that I have to feel. And so, right, everything I talk about in some form is moving the locus back in here, and everything's going to do what it can to pull it out here. And it's the stunning healing power of moving it back here is well, it's not what you'd expect, and it's extraordinarily profound. There's this, when you're out here, in some ways, there's that painful just tug and pull. And, I've been on my knees so many times. Please, please let this end. Please let this start. Please let this, please something other than this. Please, please, please. And then there's that place, where you're begging and pleading, and for it to somehow be different. And then what happens, oddly, is you begin, all of a sudden you remember, wait a minute, we'll just say I'm the lone Buddha in the world. We'll just put it that way for now. There's only this Buddha here. And then you realize, this Buddha got caught up in everything out here, and then began with the machinations that happen out here, and the obsessions and the jealousies and the yearnings and the repulsions and the rejections. All of this is just happening out here, but none of that is happening in here. None of it. And so I think, my suggestion for everyone is the same. It's always, come back home. Come back home. And, I will say home isn't always a physical place. I live, for the most part, now I live at home for the most part here, even though I don't have the physical home that I would consider Italy, which makes it a lot more conducive and a lot easier. But it's not it's still not a guarantee. It's never, there is no location there is no location. Like, in the same way, people think that they're going to get married and that they will get married and love will somehow appear. I mean, there's these ideas that form controls content, form controls essence, when its essence really controls form. And, form is often an obstacle to essence. And so there's these ideas, and really what they are is, grasping can only intensify. It's a really good thing to remember. All grasping can do is grasp and continue to intensify. And as a result, it habituates. And then from that habituation, it always has to look for more in order to feel. So it's like, I like you. And so if I can just stay in that feeling of I like you for the rest of our lives, it doesn't get any better than that. There is no better, no deeper, no more profound, no more intimate than just being in the flow of that feeling. But, and this is the tricky thing, this is a mind fuck. But most people can't stay with just the sensation of liking. They can't stay with the intensity of simple sensation. So then, in order to bring it down, they say, let's go on a next date, or something of that nature. They impose some kind of ideological or conceptual control on it, where the conception is supposed to make something mean something. So what you're doing is trading in the actual feeling, the actual thing, for the conception of it meaning something. The minute you do that, you're pulling yourself outside of it into a lesser sensation, lesser intimacy, lesser intensity, in order to be part of an idea. And then all of a sudden now you're with all of the ideological people who are operating at a certain consciousness, lower sensation though, they're at a lower sensation. And so then what you're all doing is reinforcing each other. I say you all, because this one I don't do. You're just reinforcing each other about the truth of lesser sensation. And it's like one of the things that I remember reading was how many people it takes to keep a couple married and how much reinforcement it takes. And it's interesting to think about that what we're, how much cultural reinforcement. One time, I don't know why I'm going to tell you this story other than I think it was really funny. I don't even know if it's funny anymore, but I was speaking in LA, and I was just doing normal Nicole, and something about I was making out with a lot of people, and I was talking about it, and I don't even remember exactly what I said, but I do remember that whatever I said, some man came up to me at the end of the talk, and he was just frothing at the mouth. He was so upset. And he said, I can't believe that you told people to be non-monogamous, or polyamorous was the word he used. And I said, I definitely wasn't telling anyone to be polyamorous. I don't really care what anybody does, to be honest. And he said, but you told stories of you being polyamorous, and you are a powerful woman, and so other women will emulate you. And I was like, I said, if other women become polyamorous because of me, I have a lot more power than I recognize. But what he was afraid of was that I had broken from the cult. That's really what he saw, was a woman who was standing up, emanating joy, who wasn't part of the culture, selling the way of the cult as the only way. And here's the thing, I have friends who are married. I'm not against people being married. I'm against people being, well, I'm not really against anything, but I'm not for people robbing themselves of the opportunity of nutritive, minerally profound experience in order to belong in the cult. There are certain things that you have to do in order to belong, and certain things that you have to deny having done. There's a great story in The Erotic Impulse, and they talk about Hansel and Gretel when they go over into the forest, and those who go over into the forest, when you come back out, you have to deny what happened in the forest. And so in order to be part of the culture, you have to deny this whole world that we all know we are all living in some way, but we're pretty sure we're the only ones because we're the only ones who are willing to admit it to ourselves, right? And so everyone is walking around pretending like this whole half of their lives doesn't exist. That's really what we've agreed to do as a culture. I just did an interview yesterday, I think, and he said one of the things that I said that he liked was we confuse what we call love is really hate. And he said, what did you mean by that? And I said, well, what we call love is grasping and possessiveness and ownership. And that's the opposite of love. Love is that which liberates. And, you will know you are loved by me if you feel more free in my presence than not. That is what love does. Even if, and what I said to him is, even if that loving you includes freeing you from me. That's what love does. It's just the activity of love. So anything that's not doing that is not love. And we've agreed to collectively, well, I'll use that word again, gaslight. We've agreed to collectively gaslight each other, as we grasp onto our silver anniversary gifts, that's love. No, that is a silver anniversary gift. That's a token. That's a symbol. There's a big difference, as I said, between symbols and signals. A signal, where there's smoke, there's fire. That's a signal. And then there's symbols, and that would be the sign of Smokey the Bear, right? That means there's fire around here. So we've agreed to have a social contract that isn't true. But if you break the contract, then you're extricated and excommunicated from the agreement-based world. So I have an acquaintance on the edge of friend. He was on the edge of friend at one time, more in the acquaintance now, but not because he's not awesome. And that's Norman Fisher. And he is just a beautiful human being, a Zen priest and a Jewish scholar. I used to do retreats with him. And one time, it's so funny, I was sober and I was in the 12 steps, and I said, I thought he wouldn't want to be my friend. And I said something to the effect of, well, I'm in the 12 steps, I'm sober. And he said, well, Zen is a lot like that. You just get sober from the world. I just loved that quote so much. And then I got canceled. And, getting canceled is potentially, depending if you do it well, is a bit like maybe getting pulled over for a DUI from a drunken world. And you have the opportunity to get sober. But now you're going to be the weirdo sober person. I can tell you it's infinitely worth it. But what you get sober from is any the coercive forces that would have you not be yourself. The approval seeking, or the validation seeking, or the wanting to belong. Any of those things, you're fortunate. You have to go through the withdrawals of those because you can't re-enter. You can't. I was actually friends with somebody in Bali who had been canceled at the same time I was canceled. And I mean, this guy, he was a bigger deal cancel and a bigger deal, he was celebrity. And he was, this guy was just, oh my God, he was just groveling and crawling to get back, into the biz. And I was just like, dude, what are you doing? That's like crawling back to hell. Like you have the greatest blessing. You got kicked out, and you can actually just go through the DTs or whatever you want to call it. Because you go through the process of of people not taking your call, of people who once responded not responding, of friends fleeing. You go through all of those things, right? And then you're just left there with these delirium tremors, shaking out everything that you were reliant on or connected to prior. And then suddenly you're left with one thing. And the great alchemist chant is, because I say so. And it doesn't mean anything until it means something, because it's not because I say so. It is because I say so. And it's a granting of authority that can't be granted by anything other than losing all of the illusions that pass as authority, but are really outward seeking activities that we do. Probably 90% of, let's say, earning money is outward seeking approval experience. When you think about, there are these houses in Idaho on mycheaphouses.com that are $32,000 for a 5-bedroom house. So it's possible, these things are possible. And it's possible to live in a way with very little little income. I've discovered this because the government has all of my money. They're living large. But you discover, oh, these things, they're really just so that we can continue to wear the shields with each other of belonging, the badges and shields. And then, but when all of those are gone, then all you're left with is this profoundly naked heart, and you realize, oh, I was trying to get to a profoundly naked heart by building layer upon layer upon layer of my heart. Oh, that's what we were taught to do, and you can't fake it, again and again and again and again. I say, I wouldn't wish some of these experiences being canceled, etc., on anybody, and I would wish it for everybody I love, but I would have them have more consent. It would be consensual tearing down of your life, but because I don't know how else you get there, except maybe live in a cave. So that's question number one. And then now listen to this. We have a question from Icarus. What does the future of masculinity look like according to the current trajectory? Well, that's a really good question. I mean, that's a good question in so many ways. I've heard, biologically, it's, masculine, the male is profoundly shifting, becoming a lot more effeminate. One of the reasons they suggest is because of the poisons we put in the soil, and it profoundly affects sperm count, profoundly affects testosterone. So that's just the biological level, and that's why you should hope that RFK Jr. gets approved. I'm not that political. Oh, I'm extraordinarily political, but I'm not prescriptively political. But I do think it'd be good for men to have some sperm. So that's just me. That's just me. Okay. If you don't want men to have sperm, I'm good with that. But here's the real question that I think somebody's asking is, probably in alignment with that. There was a book called Are Men Obsolete that I thought was a really interesting title. It came out not long before another book called I Hate Men that was a huge hit in Paris, in France, and which began to tell us, this prevailing notion. And I do think the current administration is beginning to turn some of the antipathy about masculinity away, but I don't think it's addressing the question, because I don't think it knows the question. I don't think most people have really looked at what the question is, because if you did, you'd have to look at upending the entire culture, as we talked about, because if you have a culture that's based on the notion that women are inherently submissive and inferior. If you have a culture that's based on that notion, that requires women to practice constant restraint in order to maintain that cultural notion, if you break from that cultural notion, we've mentioned there are ways that you're punished by the cult. So this constant restraint with approved ways of expression within it. Constant crying is one. Depression that requires medication is another. Sort of dramatic outbursts that expel the energy, so that you've wasted all of the energy that could be used towards strategic change. And you've spent that on big showy things, and for that I would give you what's called Me Too, where you climax the energy out. I mean, I think if you want to talk about it, nobody was happier than the old boy patriarchy that Me Too was happening, because it was very clear it was going to be a big explosion. All of this energy was going to go out. The women would be exhausted and everything would return to normal. And guess what? Not only did it return to normal and baseline, it went below that. So, because all of a sudden we were like, no, we haven't lost enough. Let's forego even more levels of body autonomy. There you go. So those are the approved methods in the cult for female expression. And because she's in constant repression, then she's going to explode, and you don't want that. You don't want an actual revolution. You want to keep it managed like a controlled burn, and so you have to give some modes of expression. Crying is usually the best, and it's great for the patriarchy. Just cry, 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 and you will take all that energy that could pleasurably be moving outside of your vagina and changing you and changing the world. Instead of doing that, you can just pour tears and nothing changes. So, but that's what we used to say back in the day. You can tell I come from a fierce tradition, but tears are orgasm coming through the eye. That's it. It's simple. It's like that's what it is, and you get to choose. That's the thing that each woman gets to choose. So, so you have you have a culture that's just, it's like the foundation of the culture. That is the very foundation. And what we call it? Good motherhood. We call it the family, and we call it society. Would fall apart if it weren't for this fundamental factor of inferior submission of all women, period. Then you have, so from that, a man's vocation is very easy. I just produced for the disabled being in my house, simple, who may be a little grumpy at times. And so then I tolerate her. And if I'm, really an enlightened man, then I endure her feminine storm or something. I remember all that crazy language. And, it's not ever that I actually just do what I can to take this woman who's, tied up in barbed wire. I just get the barbed wire off of her and get her out of the cage and have her walk around. No, I just endure the storm that a woman would have with that barbed wire who's yelling and crying. And then call myself a good man, and then I throw in some, I don't know, chicken for her to cook, and then once a month I throw in some Twinkies because she's going to be depressed and cry more, and that's really what masculinity has been, and then I generously withhold or conceal my own sexual desire in some way until finally, she does her duty, damn it, and fucks me. And but you can tell she hates it. And so because she hates it, I have to totally turn off my mind and be kind of violent, which ensures that she hates it. So then we create that sexual samsara right there. And that's what our culture is based on. And so so what's beginning to happen, the potential that could happen, I think it will, to be honest, which is very, very, very optimistic. Very optimistic. I'm probably the only person who sees it and is optimistic about it. It's very difficult to do both, but I think that women will rise despite the odds. And but I think I think it's because it's dharmic, and we have to. In the same way I said yesterday, I feel like the plants came. Somebody had said the plants. We were in such dire condition that the plants came and said, you have to take us, until people were doing plant medicine to freaking wake people up just a little damn faster. I feel like, the Dharmapalas are, hopefully having women wake up a little bit faster to the truth. And I don't know that I would be so optimistic, really, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, if it weren't for Instagram and I don't like the word followers because I've been called a cult leader, but the community that has developed there of, when I put my views out there, it's very easy for me to see the blank stares and to assume that I'm crazy. But I just made a vow that every day I'd just keep putting my views out there on my Instagram. I didn't care if I had a community or not. I really just cared that I got it out. That's what I cared about. And then to have people really engage so poetically is the cool part. Like, people I like engage on my page, which is even better. And so then it hit me, okay, I think we are ready. We are ready for this. And, we all carry a certain amount. We all carry the Buddha within, okay? Like, everyone puts Ye down for saying, I'm God. I'm being Kanye saying I'm God. And then later he says, but they cut off the interview where I said, because everyone's God. And dear Netflix, gotta watch that editing. So all of us have this Buddhahood within us, and my Buddhahood for a long time has been saying, this has to happen. And I'll talk a lot about Drupal because he's so dear to me. He tells the story of the Maitreya Buddha who's sitting. There's one that's sitting like this. I actually saw on the call where he talked about this. He's actually sitting like this, and he's sitting because he came with a message, and the message was not received. So he went back home, and he's sitting trying to figure out how to re-enter the world and have it be that people can hear the message. And we identify with mythological, although I don't think Maitreya is mythological. I think Maitreya is archetypal figures for a reason. I identified with that feeling of, I was very clear. It's just so obvious. Women have to rise, and then here's the beautiful thing. So back to my question. See, it doesn't take me much. You can just give me a little bit. I'm a lady. I made the joke, how Tony Robbins says, a man carries a wallet and a woman carries a purse, because you give a woman a little bit and she'll give you a lot back. You give her some sperm, she gives you a baby. And so back to my question, which is what the heck for men. So what I think is in the future for men is that you'll get to live artfully, and you'll get to live beyond the lowest common denominator of your sex, and you'll get to elevate from the mere physical, and your true gifts will be understood, welcomed, desired, and appreciated, because there will be women and not girls on the planet. And you won't have to produce for us at a mere physical level. You'll be able to produce experiences for us and sensations for us, and that will emerge men into the creative frame of living. You can't be in the creative frame if there's a goal. It robs you of it. So then you're restricted to duty. If you're just producing for her, and that or protecting her. Most men are, as I said, protecting women from themselves and their own power. And so the idea that that this sensing faculty that men have to keep repressed, as long as women keep their desire faculty down, will arise, and a whole new world of what you can offer will reveal itself to you. You also can't create in an atmosphere of of fear. And the cult is an atmosphere of fear, right? If you unleash as a man, as the masculine, as the female masculine, whatever the fuck you want to call it, if you unleash that, then you, around a bunch of repressed people, then you are seen as dangerous. Natural is seen as dangerous in a repressed environment. So in order to belong, you have to agree to be equally repressed along with all other people. You can go a little bit above it, and like a little bit above it, and you're there was a time when Elon Musk was the hero. He was in all of the, like, oh God, these various comedy shows, and people liked him. He was the weird, awkward, autistic, kind of cool genius. He went a little bit above it, but then he got a little bit too unleashed, and now he's public enemy #1. So like that. So creativity can only go so far in a world that's repressed, but women are the ones who hold creativity. So we get to, if we unleash, we free everybody. That's the promise. A free woman frees everyone around her to what? To be themselves. That's what the freedom is. So when I look at it, I feel very, very hopeful. I'm fortunate that I get to see, I've in my life, I've played, there's nothing, I don't know what else, there's nothing else I want to try, we'll say that. I just want to read my little books, write my little things, do my little talks, eat some of this delicious gluten-free pizza I found in Manhattan, and like hang out with my friends and change the world. That's really what I want to do. But all of the experiments I had to do in order to discover how you do that, I don't need any more of those. But I really got to, one of the things, the heartbreaking things that I got to see is how there is a program in men that seems to communicate to most women that they're unlovable until they produce, and if they can't produce, they're unlovable, and that's heartbreaking to see. I've watched very good people miss the point. Miss the point of human existence because of that program. Or a man who can't, we'll say, a man who can't is seen as unlovable, who can't get it up, who can't, this whole series of things. And I can tell you that that single clog in men's bodies, have it be that men don't. Because the groove is, burned into that terror, or it's an overdrive. I used to always say, we so positively reinforce men to bypass boundaries in industry. Why would we believe that they would understand boundaries in personal intimacy? You have to understand that the entire vehicle has to be trained, in all of us. So where do I think masculinity will go? I believe that it will become a mountain. And on that mountain of, Shiva will be the infinite play of Shakti, and his delight in her play will have it be that her play is ignited, and from that ignition, the new world will be born. That's what I think. So, Will, can you say more about women being the navigators of the land and the men being better at following the guidance of women? So the actual quote is from evolutionary biology, and that is that women track the environment, looking for safety for mating and raising their young. And men, or the male, tracks women, looking for the thing to create, the opportunity for young. And so that's just that fundamental line is built in. And in terms of science, what it's referred to is it's called volitional estrus, or call. That has to do with the signal she sends out when she's ready for some heat from the male. Now, most animals, it is not volitional. It's just estrus. It comes when it comes. It goes when it goes. When it comes, she's good. When it goes, she's not. Very simple. Volitional estrus is different. That's the mammal's capacity to activate the signal even when she's not menstruating or around ovulating. Sorry, even when she's not ovulating, she can activate the signal of ovulation by turning on. When she turns on, what'll happen is you'll feel something kind of odd. What's more interesting is that you can be in a room full of women, and a woman who's not necessarily your preference can be the one who's sending the signal. And the one who's your preference might be the one you're responding to. The one who's your preference that you're responding to might be like, "What are you doing? Get away from me!" And you're like, "Man, I felt it." And this one who's over here beaming you is wondering why you aren't turning your head. And so I would say that how about the call of our time is for women to claim and master is the word, master call. And what would mastery of call look like? It would be the learning to ignite that broadcast, turn on that broadcast in order to do what women do, that's magnetized to us, with an elevated vision that is for the benefit of all, and to aim whoever comes into her field into that vision that will benefit all. That's what the highest expression of call does. The challenge that we face is that women either deny their call, that they have it. I've sat with more hairdressers talking about call, having them say, I don't have that. And I'll say, okay, wait a minute. So you've never been in a room, you've never seen a guy, you've never felt your body light up and felt him turn around. Oh yeah, I have that. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Just in an everyday big way across the course of your life. And so that first place of just acknowledging that you have this power, because if you acknowledge it, you're in the place where Kevin Durant's mother, people started calling her mama, right? You have a responsibility and an accountability for this incredible power that you hold. And what is the responsibility? It is to use it for the benefit, especially of those who are drawn to you, to not use it in order to transact with them, to feed yourself. But you aren't out of the equation. You get to be fed too, provided it's for a deeper purpose. And I'll tell you why. I think I may have mentioned, there's so much pain in the world And we're born just hardwired for basic empathy. You know, that's like the default setting on your Volkswagen empathy. You know, you got it. But empathy, feeling into other people, that just leaves you drowning, right? You're just like, oh God, you're in pain and you're in pain and you're in pain and you're in pain. And then you just get empathy overload. And then you're just like, forget people. People are stupid. This is stupid. I don't want to talk to anybody. And then you look at Instagram, and then you diagnose yourself and you decide you're an introvert in order to withdraw from all of it. And then hopefully you discover what's called compassion. Now, compassion is the empathy impulse matured into what? Into the desire to do something about that pain. So that moment that you see somebody suffering, rather than just being like, oh God, oh, I hurt so badly, I can't look at it. You know, whatever that is that you do to determine that person is suffering, I want to do something to end that suffering. Just that gets you out of the pool. Just that. Then you can do a little, I'll just teach you a little trick. Om Mani Padme Hum 3 times. And you know, that's the prayer that they get born into a better life. And that could be in the next minute that it's a better life. Just that. Whew, you're 2 steps out of that suffering pool. And then you begin to build a whole life that's only focused on how to transmute this suffering into, and I would say, now remember, I'm an Eros woman, not a Buddhist, so I would say into creative flow, and to begin to activate the creativity in each person. I believe if each of us were creatively activated, we would figure out some really cool solutions rather than having to take the same boring prescribed solutions that you get. So that's why I take the Eros way. And so, you know, but a woman really has to, there are admissions we have to make in order to become that. And the most difficult admission a woman can ever make, as far as I can tell, is I have enough right now, right here, as is. Even with that person I'm obsessed with over there, or even with that person who hates me over there, even with, you know, this outfit that I want, whatever it is, even with these extra 5 pounds, even with the fact that I drank too much, I didn't, but I drank too much, even with these things, I have enough. And to make that your baseline, to never deviate from that place of I have enough. Because if I mentioned this yesterday, but if you deviate, I wasn't talking to you. So probably, you know, unless we were all on the hill. But it's like it's like going grocery shopping hungry, and that's how we live. That's how women live, with this sense that we don't have enough. We don't have enough. We don't have enough. We don't have enough. No, that it's not that you don't have enough. It's that you haven't admitted that you have enough. That's the profound. There's nothing else, right? So then you get to that place. And then all of a sudden, that fundamental, under the radar, constant, chronic, invisible seeking feeling that is, that we often call passion or romance, but that feeling can let go. And it lets go of you. You know, you say, I have enough, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, I don't have anything to hold on to. Because the only thing it can hold on to is the idea of insufficiency. So you have that fundamental idea of insufficiency. You say, I have enough. That grasping leaves. Oh my God, you know what happens when the grasping leaves? I can tell you, all of the accommodation, the faking it, the appeasing, the trying to be something that you're not, the pretending, the big smile, all of that leaves. Because you have enough, you no longer have to sell your soul. Wow, that feeling that says, sell your soul, you got to sell it right now, you got to sell it right now. Oh, somebody smiled at you. Oh my God. Oh, he might ask you to marry him later. Oh, got to sell it, sell cheap. The opportunity is going to pass. all of that goes because you have enough. That's the fundamental thing. And then suddenly after that, this really shocking and horrific thing happens. And that's that now that you're no longer so desperately trying to play pretty pony and appease everyone around you, you begin seeing that everyone's kind of fucked up. And because you now don't have the magical power of projection that lifts and supports everyone around you to make them just a little bit above you. Suddenly you don't want to do that anymore. And so then, oh, wait a minute, you understand that all of these people who were so much better than you and that you were jealous of, envious of, whatever, these people, the most devastating experience I think any woman will ever have, and initially any man will ever have, and then it'll be the best experience for both. It'll be the getting sober, is realizing he doesn't know. He just doesn't know. It's just that simple. He's not an asshole. He's not gaslighting you. He's not diminishing what you're saying. He just doesn't know. He doesn't know. And he was trained to act like he knows all the time, and he doesn't. And it's even worse if he loves you, because he will really keep pretending like he knows. And you're over here in your insufficiency, shining the spotlight out there, and whatever he says, you're like, well, that doesn't really make any sense, but I'm going to tilt my head this way so it does make sense, to make him into a hero, to keep him as a hero, to keep him as a hero. And so, all of a sudden that can go, and then he can be a person, and you can be a person with him. And then there's no pre-written expectations that happen. And that's the only place intimacy can happen. It's when you don't need anybody to be anything other than who they are. You just meet them in their weirdness, and you be in yours. And then that's that other counterintuitive experience, because suddenly that feeling that you were seeking is there in bigger than you can handle, more than you can handle. It's too much almost, because it's so potent, and it's been there all along, except for you had the hose squeezed with this insufficiency. So then what happens is a woman can, excuse me, begin to treat men like human beings. And there's a dignity that comes with that. There's a dignity that comes when I don't expect you to do more than you can do, but I expect you to do everything you can do. And then suddenly, as men get dignified, then what happens is they become profoundly attractive, and they become heroic in nature, because they're naturally heroic in nature, and they're then tuned into their nature. And then that most exquisite part of a man, that just unending desire to offer, to please, to support, to protect, that's just built into the biology, then that can reveal itself. I mean, it can reveal itself innocently, not having to pretend that it knows what to do. And then all of us, when that happens, for me, that's where I get touched. And when I get touched, that's when I get to be the woman that I am, responsible and accountable, the mother that exists within, and responsible and accountable to. And then suddenly you have this where 99% of the energy in the world is spent in opposition, right? Liberals against conservatives, and the war of the sexes being the underlying war that exists. All of a sudden, it uses most of our creative energy. All of a sudden, we're going together, and we don't have to waste it. And then you begin to see something profound. Things lock into place. A natural shorthand occurs, a profound opportunity to do what we all came here to do. And that is to, however you want to put it, build the celestial mansion of the universe together, or bring back Eden, or whatever it is. Oh, what's that book? Bring it, usher in the new world, whatever that is. That's what we're here to do. And then you now have all of your resources available to do that you were born equipped to do. And then all that's where the fun begins. There's nothing more fun than co-creating with friends. There's nothing more fun on the planet than that, because everyone is there and they're human flourishing in their Funktionlust. Everyone's looking good because they're their best, and the energies are flying, and and everything feels horny. Everything feels like spring because everyone is creating. And so then you get to live there in a world with people, it's what a nightclub wants to be. So that's for today. Oh, look at this. This is so funny. I was like, I totally got it today. I thought I had 2 more, but I have 4 questions. I answered 3. In an hour. I'm sorry.
You got 4 more in the meantime.
Oh,
so
I did.
for tomorrow.
Okay, I'll get you next time.
Thank you. We'll end with a few reflections from online. You can raise your virtual hand. We'll start with Rachel Regan.
Hi, Nick. That call was just so stunningly beautiful. I had this feeling of such beauty unfolding in my heart the whole way through the call. Turn on heat and beauty. Heat unfolding in my heart. And there's a moment there was one moment where you were talking about women in the barbed wire. And like if men could just see and like unravel the barbed wire. And I was thinking about all these funny little memes I watch on Instagram in the ocean, when jellyfish get caught, not jellyfish, or tortoises get caught up, and everyone is like, yeah, undo the barbed wire. And I watch these all the time. And I just thought in that moment when you said it, I thought, oh, I can actually do that for myself.
Yeah.
And I can just do that for myself. And not only can I do it for myself, but I can just talk to him about the barbed wire and like, look at this barbed wire. Let's like help me take it off, and that's the conversation rather than I feel just such discontent and you're the reason for it,
Yes.
and
Good woman.
and
men in this room are like, yeah.
and yeah, it was just there was so many moments, but just a gorgeous talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Beautiful post the other day. Go ahead.
We'll go to Nancy next.
Hi.
Nancy.
Hi. I feel like I got about 6 different keys in the talk today that you shared. And the first thing you said was when you have a connection with a person, I like you. That's like that. I've been looking for that key for a while, and it's like anything, it's nothing extra. It's like,
Yeah.
I like you. So I love that. And then the other thing you said was the natural is seen as dangerous. And that really touched me deeply because it's like I think what I'm working on with expressing my sexual energies and so forth, it's like, it's so natural and yet, and yet it's seen as dangerous. And so, but it's not my experience. So it's just, thank you for that.
Thank you deeply.
And we'll end with one more that we got in the chat from Joseph Massey. He said, I can't adequately describe how much of a relief it is to hear Nicole describe cancellation as a gift, which it is. Cancellation is God's gift to level up from the rubble of, yes, intoxication from the cult of polite society and beyond.
Your words. Thank you. Beautiful. It's like having my thought given back to me beautifully gift wrapped. So thank you deeply. All right. So tomorrow I won't be here because I'm going to be on Mexican radio, which is so funny. But I'll be back on Saturday And we'll just keep doing what we're doing. And, you know, I'll begin pulling from the book at some point, but I think we're doing great. I feel so good about us. And so I'll see you on Saturday at 1? Saturday at 1 o'clock. Thanks, everyone. Bye.